I'm Julien, so I'm a senior live operation analyst at Wargaming Europe. So we are based in Paris. We are mostly in Paris managing World of Tanks PC. And so I will talk a little bit about what we are doing in terms of analytics to support LiveOps. But first I will introduce our structure a little bit. So basically, we have 4 different departments in live operations. We have a team of people managing influencers. So their main goal is to acquire new players and to make some winbacks. So what we call winbacks is like you have a churn player and you want to make him come back into the game. And they also make some brand awareness with some influencers on YouTube or Twitch, whatever. When there's some connection we can do with our games, they do different stuff. We have also a team for CRM and PRMP. So I guess you all know what CRM is. PRMP is an in-house tool we have. It's dedicated to make CRM, but in-game. Basically, it's like a pop-up or a push notification in-game, and it's a trigger-based engine. So let's say you want to push a specific offer to players that own a specific asset into the tank after the 10th battle of the day. It's possible, you can do that. And it also works with models. So for instance, we have a churn model and we have a monetization model. So if a user is predicted, let's say next week, to continue playing but not to pay, we can push to him some discounts. A player who is predicted to churn next week, we can send him an offers to have some specific missions to earn rewards into the game and continue playing. Then we have server-side events team. So basically they are doing all the events that affect all players. So it can be missions, monthly offers, whatever. And also, that's something kind of new. We are trying to make our structure evolve to integrate easier new projects and think about live operations very ahead of time into the project before the soft launch and before it's released on the market. So actually, we also have a global data science team. I just put that here to make the difference between what we are doing in terms of analytics, because I work in this kind of bunker. But this bunker is also working with other departments in the company, including community, customer service, and others. And so data science, globally, they provide mostly models to us, including churn model, monetization model, segmentation, others, and also market research. And they also do other stuff, but that's the main thing. And so the analytics team focus on pre and post analytics. So I will give one example of pre-analysis and post analysis. And we also do dashboard and tools to help the team doing their job. We also do forecasts. So that's the first thing I will show to you. It's a good tool we have to monitor our activities. And we also do market research for new projects. So this is just an example of what PRMP is. So let's say you finish the battle. So this one is a campaign that works really well for us. So you finish a battle with an epic medal, which is a good achievement in the game. It's really hard to do that. And it's a positive moment for the player. We reward him with a 10% discount. And that's something that works really well. It creates some impulsive payments into the game. So basically the revenue forecast, so when we, before starting a month and create the plan, we create monthly plans for server-side events, PRMP campaigns and whatever. And so the way our company is working is we have yearly and monthly targets. And so when we brainstorm about the different offers we can do, of course, you have a lot of people and creative people with a lot of ideas, but if you put, as said this morning, you put all these ideas at the same time, first you need to generate more new ideas for the future, and then you can cannibalize and you can fed up your user or lose your users in what you want to do. So what we do to avoid that is we forecast the revenue for the month that is coming. And this is a good exercise because it tells you basically is what you have planned for the month, will it be enough to fill the goals? And if you have enough events to reach the targets. So basically how it works, we have a baseline based on what we predict the MAU will be, and we know how much we will monetize. And for the different marketing bits and monetization events, we use previous data if we did something similar, or if it's new, it's basically a mix of gut feeling. I do not like to say it as an analyst, but it's a mix of gut feeling and analysis. For instance, you release a new bundle, you know the price, you know that approximately this share of players will buy it. You know you have these different price points, and you know that most of the time 70% of the revenue occurs during the first 2-3 days, so you can build this kind of thing. And also, it's when the month is going on, it's also a good tool to adapt your plan. Here, we see that the revenues are worse than planned. So you can look into your backup thing, what you can do. The thing we saved for other month, can we put that here to save the month? And then it's also a good tool at the end of the month to look at what you've done, look at what worked, what didn't work, and prioritize the different analyses you'll have to do. Because since we do a lot of different campaigns, we have to prioritize a little bit the post-analysis. And another approach we have, so that's mostly for server-side events, because for PRMP, it's basically A/B testing. So with the tool includes some A/B testing features, so it's easy to compare control group and target group. But for server-side events, which are targeting all players, it's a different thing. So an approach we have, and we recently automatized it, is a synthetic control group approach. So we take players who bought a bundle or participated to a mission, and we build a control group from players who didn't. And this is an example. For instance, we have an event who was aimed to increase revenue by making players spend credits, which is the soft currency in the game. And so what we do is we look at what occurred before the event, what occurred during the event, and for players in the target group, we take the active days they played, revenues, credits spent, and active days during the event. And we find similar players to match with them. This is one approach, and we also do that using the output of monetization models or segments. This is the easiest one with, if you do not have models to work with, you take different KPIs per player and you try to match them together. So the procedure is kind of easy. We start with a data extraction, and then there's a data transformation step using R, and we need to transform the data because some data, it's, for instance, revenue. You cannot find exactly a player who spends the exact same amount of money, so you have just to make some easy transformation. And after that, we build the synthetic control group. So for instance, the transformation, let's say you have two players, one didn't spend, one spent a little bit more than $12. You have the amount of active days before and during, you have the amount of credits spent before. You just transform the data by using quantiles or no transformation. For instance, active days, it's not needed. Credits spent, you need to transform it. And then after that, you end up with like kind of a table that takes all the players with the different groups they are in terms of revenues, active days, credit spent. You have the amount of players in your target group and the amount of similar players in our database that didn't participate to the event. And we take a ratio of how many players the available players represent compared to the target group. So we can say, okay, for one player in the target group, do we match him with one similar player or with 2 other players and 3 others? The more we have, the better, because you can do some permutation tests and compare it to different control groups and really assess the benefit of your event. And we look, for instance, in this example, we can match one player with 3 other players. If you go up to 4 other players, you will lose 25% of players in the target group. So you will not take the entire picture of your event. So this is what I put here. 3 is the optimum because we keep an important amount of people in the target group, and we have enough players to do some permutation around the control groups. And in the end, you just do a basic analysis, and it's always interesting to look at what happened after your events. For instance, when it comes to revenue, because you can have pretty quickly an idea about cannibalization. In this example, there's no cannibalization and no upselling effect. For instance, it would have been clearer with cumulative RPU. For instance, if you have both groups going like this, and the trend after the event is the same for both control group or target players, you did not affect the behavior afterward. There's no cannibalization. If the trend for the target group is going lower, then there's probably some cannibalization with other bundles or other events. And the last thing is just a quick example of a pre-analysis. So it's actually something we use to kind of cheat our players, because a lot of people are mixing difficulty and rarity. So for instance, if we take an example, in order to boost retention, we want to build a mission that will offer some freebies to our players. And we want to make them feel proud of receiving this reward. So we want them to feel like, okay, I achieved something difficult that everybody cannot handle. So for instance, the mission would be win 5 battles in a row. So if we take, to make it simple, it's 50% win rate, and it's not everything in your hand, so it's just like a coin toss. So the probability is 1/2 raised to the power of 5, so 3% chance basically to win 5 battles in a row, which is pretty hard, pretty rare. But the reality is, players do not stop after 5 battles, they just continue. So this probability is more in a chain of battles, in a chain of games. What is the probability that at one point in a time, the player will achieve 5 battles in a row? I do not put the mathematics, but you can avoid mathematics by extracting your data and just doing some samples in our other tools. So in this example, and that's where rarity is different from difficulty. This is difficult, but by computing the chance over amount of battles, after 100 battles, you have 80% chance to, at some point during this chain of battles, you perform 5 battles in a row. So if you do that to all your players who played at least 100 battles, 80% of them will achieve this mission that they perceived personally pretty hard.
The idea that by generating that peak during that event for that group, would it add fatigue potentially to the LiveOps cadence that you have that other players won't have, right? Because over 5 days, maybe it makes sense, but maybe over the course of a month.
Of course, it depends of the type of campaign. Usually, on this one, I just took an example from our PRMP thing, because it's most of the campaigns are running over a period of 7 days, and if you receive the monetization offers, next one is 7 days after. So we always look at this 7 days before, after time frame. But of course, you adapt it based on what you are doing, what you think you are doing with this kind of campaign, and how long it can affect the players.
Also, we should not forget that wargaming games are multiplayer games, so you have to be matchmake with other players to enjoy the fun of the game. So I got a question as well, which is that through your promotions, eventually you're going to end up with players that has really awesome tanks, right? They're very much more powerful than others. So how do you make this matchmaking work so that everyone has fun?
So first, sorry, I do not work on the matchmaking. It's mostly the data science team. From what I know, matchmaker is pretty basic the way it works, because the team already tried different solutions to make it better in terms of matching similar people together. But it's always the problem is always when you are during not prime hours, you can have a queue that goes up to 2 minutes, for instance, and that's for a game that lasts 5 minutes. Waiting 2 minutes before starting a game, it's not acceptable from a player point of view. You just stop the game. So sometimes for a matchmaker, simpler one, even if not better, is in the end better, because it will not affect the churn as much as something more complicated that will take time.
That makes me think of Overwatch, when you wait forever to be matchmake. All right, thank you so much.